People argue about the mRNA vaccines. Are they safe and effective? And if people get this wrong, should we argue with them, try to convince them? This has become this contentious and political issue, and I want to talk about it. I'm Dr. Peter Allen. I earned a PhD in analytical chemistry. I am not employed by any company with any interest in vaccines, and this video represents my personal thoughts and opinions. I want to share some 2026 research on the vaccine safety question. Thankfully, we don't need a lot of expertise to understand the broad strokes of this recent study. So I want to examine what it means to people who might still be anti-vax or vaccine skeptical. Frankly, this is the kind of research that is so clear and so understandable that it should settle the arguments. And this is how evidence-based argument is supposed to work. So what is the study? In this study, a Norwegian group of researchers asked the most basic question possible. Do vaccinated people die more or less frequently than unvaccinated people? The research was conducted in Norway. It wasn't funded by Big Pharma. It wasn't influenced by the US government. They evaluated the vaccine in the broadest, simplest way. Are people who are vaccinated with the mRNA COVID vaccine more or less likely to die? The link to the original study is in the description. It is open access. You can read it yourself. Methods are straightforward. They collected data from Norwegian health systems medical records. They collected vaccination status and dates and the date of death where applicable. Then they counted. Of the people who never got a vaccine, how many died from 2021 to 2023? Of the people who did get one or more vaccinations, how many died from 2021 to 2023? Which number is bigger? They broke it down into age and risk groups to make an apples-to-apples comparison, and they included people in the vaccinated category immediately after vaccination. Overall, the rate of death per 100,000 people went down by 20% in the vaccinated group. So let's just look at the 65 years or older group. The other age groups had proportionate numbers. If you took 100,000 people who were vaccinated and compared them to 100,000 people who were unvaccinated, in that study time span, 3,621 vaccinated people died, whereas 4,780 unvaccinated people died. To be clear, that's more than 1,100 extra deaths in the unvaccinated group. That's not hard math. 4,780 is bigger than 3,621. I want to be in the category with 1,000 fewer deaths. You can calculate a risk ratio, that is, how much less risk do vaccinated people have. And across age groups, you can see it's about 0.7 to 0.8, meaning that they have about 70 to 80% chance of dying. That's 30 to 20% lower chance of dying than unvaccinated people. If you do some statistical adjustments to correct for people's risk categories, the vaccine looks even better. That gets to risk ratios of 0.37 to 0.48, or a reduction of death by more than half. These adjustments are there to correct for trends. Educated people and people with pre-existing health conditions tend to get vaccinated at higher rates. Those population trends tend to bias the raw data. The examples I gave tend to cancel, but they have to be carefully weighed. That is complex, and it could be a source of some critique, but we don't need fancy statistics because the result is big enough to stand out of any of that noise. Anti-vaxxers claim that the vaccine causes many or most people who get it to die, that the vaccine causes turbo cancer, that the vaccine causes terrible side effects that are worse than COVID, essentially that the vaccine is a terribly risky poison. Less sensational claims might be that the vaccine just carries risks of side effects like myocarditis and that those risks outweigh the risk of not getting the vaccine. If the anti-vaxxers were right, these numbers would look different. There are three possibilities. The death rate in vaccinated population is larger. That's consistent with the vaccine being poison. It's what you would expect if the vaccine caused turbo cancer, and it's consistent with the vaccine being unsafe and ineffective. Death rate in vaccinated people could be about the same as unvaccinated people. That's consistent with the risk of serious complications being similar to COVID. It's also consistent with the vaccine being safe, but ineffective. Or the death rate in vaccinated population is smaller than the death rate in unvaccinated people. This is the only condition where the vaccine should keep its regulatory approval, and it is consistent with the vaccine being safe and effective. We got the third one. This is as clear an outcome as you could hope for in this kind of study. It's not fully proving causation. It's an observational study, not a randomized placebo-controlled clinical trial, which has also been done, but it does disprove the anti-vax position. There's no conflict of interest, clear sources of data, obvious, unambiguous results. No close calls, no careful statistical analysis required. Just a clear answer. Vaccines are safer and more protective than non. So are vaccines safe and effective? Yes. Is vaccination 100% safe and 100% effective? No, and no one should claim that. It's safer and more effective than not getting it. If the options were no vaccine, vaccine, and Thanos snapping the virus out of existence, take option 3. But we don't have option 3. Option 2 is better than option 1. That's what this paper says, independently from all the other safety and efficacy trials, which all also say the same thing. It's not often in science that you get a result this clear, this simple, that requires so little expertise to understand. This is counting. They counted. The vaccine did the job. This is the perfect, purest, one-line answer to the questions of the anti-vaxxers. And it's a shame it won't matter. For the anti-vaxxers, there is no evidence that's going to satisfy them. They are not available to be convinced. We could follow 100 million or 6 billion people, the current number of people vaccinated, instead of the 4.6 million people covered by this study. We could zoom in on every group, every timescale, every possible outcome. There is no standard of proof that can overcome determined contrariness. The key question to ask is, what would change your mind? And for anti-vaxxers, the answer is, nothing you could ever do. There's a difference between scientific skepticism and contrarianism. If you're in a real-life argument, you could literally pose the question, what evidence would convince you? A response should guide your next step. If there's a good faith standard, openness to such a standard, then you have an inroad. You could try to meet that or suggest what a reasonable standard might look like. If the standard is impossible, like nothing could possibly convince me, or bring back my cousin who died after he got the vaccine, it's probably best to just disengage. That's how we know the anti-vax movement is also anti-science. There is no practical condition to change their mind. They're not doing scientific skepticism, no matter what they might claim. That's the difference between being skeptical and just being belligerent. Skepticism says we should absolutely design and run these experiments. We should take nothing on faith. The drug makers must be held accountable to standards of safety and effectiveness. That's good. That's scientific. Belligerent says that no matter how clearly the data contradict my preferred position, I'm going to stick to it anyway. Truth is the position I maintain until my enemies are silent. When belligerent people demand more evidence, more experiments, larger studies, they are doing something different than skeptical scientists. They may frame their position as valuing evidence, but the point is to obtain the rhetorical concession that the matter is not yet fully settled, which they can then equate to a matter of mere opinion. In scientific disagreements, both sides can describe what evidence would change their mind, and this is not that. Flat Earth videos got traction with the algorithm a few years ago. The central premise of the Flat Earth movement is my anecdotes are as good as your expertise. More specifically, my personal experience looks flat. An untrained intuition, maths for eggheads, are just as good as your precision data, calculations, and track record of verifiable quantitative predictions. That premise appeals because it is a license to believe, well, whatever you want to believe. And that license, along with the seductive promise of hidden knowledge, is enough to suck in an audience. The anti-vax position has the same basic argument. Why engage anyway? For the observers, for the audience. If you're in a position to talk about science with an anti-vaxxer, this is critical to understand. Their belligerent contrariness limits what goals are achievable. If there's no condition that would convince your interlocutor, then the only reason to engage is to clarify the matter for third parties, for the observers. Engagement will never convince flat earthers or anti-vaxxers, but it may be worth taking the time to help an audience find better ideas. Productive work in science and science communication is in building and maintaining communities and institutions. Confronting anti-science is only important as a way to communicate to the quiet majority who may be watching that science is reliable, that, at least in this case, the data are clear, that evidence-based reasoning is a powerful tool for human progress. The Norwegian vaccine data are as close as we could ask for to a clear result, but the anti-vax movement wants nothing to do with data. Their disagreement is founded on conviction and rhetoric. Scientific communicators should go forward knowing what they're up against. See, the strength of science is that it is fallible. I know some people think I'm saying science is infallible, that my whole point is that you should just believe this settled science on the basis of scientific authority, but I'm not saying that. Science is always provisional, always a work in progress. Science is always falsifiable. It is always contingent on future findings. That seems rhetorically weaker, but it is a feature, not a bug. Staking claims that can be invalidated by future measurements is dangerous. This vaccine is safer than nothing, more effective than nothing, is a claim that people will hold accountable. They will question it, they will measure it, they will hold it up to scrutiny. It is a social and legal claim with heavy liabilities. It's dangerous to make it, and because we can verify it, it is trustworthy. Anti-vax position is entirely unaccountable. It is based on anecdote and untrained intuition, and we don't do anything else according to those rules. We don't fly in airliners that are built according to those rules. We don't perform emergency medicine that way. We trust real expertise. The Norwegian study can be tested, repeated, falsified. These properties make it, and science like it, trustworthy. It's not the prestige of the institution. It's not the degrees of the researcher. It's not consensus with other experts. It's not the sensationalism of the story. The vaccine reduced the number of dead people. And that claim is accountable. That is what gives it scientific authority. So understand the real purpose of any engagement you might want to do. If someone rejects the result and they can't name the conditions that would convince them, then they are not engaging in science. Modeling scientific principles and pointing out when anti-science actors operate outside those principles is the role of scientists. Science is never perfectly certain. It is defined by constant refinement and correction. But that idea is worth spreading to non-scientists watching from the sidelines, even if we never convince an anti-vaxxer. Also, a lot of the anti-vaxxers are just bots.